Let's start before she was Mary. Born with the name Gladys Smith, to a mother who was a seamstress and a father who was a drunk and left his wife and children to fend for themselves in Toronto at the turn of the last century. Gladys's mother took in boarders to pay the rent. It was either that or give up the kids. And one of those boarders, one of those strangers who came to live for a while in the house that Gladys used to live in with just her brother and sister and mom and dad, was the stage manager of a theater. And he thought Gladys was cute. Thought there was something in her eyes, something open and vulnerable and expressive and big enough to be seen from out there at the back of the room. And he gave her a part in a play and a salary. She was 7. And suddenly she could help her family. And if she could never put it back together again, could never bring her father back, then maybe she could get back to the days when their home was their own, when it was just them. And so she became an actor. The stage was no place for a kid, no place for a woman, people said back then, never mind a girl. But Gladys found herself on stage. She found a place away from the home where her father wasn't anymore. She found a place where she could become anyone, live out any life. And she found a way to keep her family afloat. And she found her new name, Mary Pickford. Picked out by a Broadway producer, she was an industry veteran at 12 and the breadwinner for her family. She took to that role, negotiating hard. She was the father in her family, she'd tell producers. And that's why she needed $10 a week when everyone else was getting $5. She didn't care that demanding things wasn't the kind of things that girls did. Didn't care that this wasn't what women did, because they did now. And if her responsibilities meant that she had to slum it in the movies when the Broadway season was over, then she would do that too. Mary became a star, which doesn't really begin to say it. We have plenty of stars. Kevin Hart is a star. Kevin James is a star. Kevin from The Office is a star in his way. But Mary Pickford was a new sort of human being, living an unprecedented life. Hers was the most known, the most familiar face on earth. She was a beloved stranger who felt like so much more. She was also the first person to really figure out how to be in the movies, that they could see you fine up there in the balcony, that you could act, you didn't always have to flail around. She fought to get paid, and she fought for final cut, for control over the roles she would play, over who would write those roles, over directors and costumes and all of it, until eventually she said, screw it, and she started making movies on her own. No studios, no gatekeepers, no dudes well-actuallying her decisions. This is Charlie Chaplin and Mary's future husband, Douglas Fairbanks, and the director, D.W. Griffith, who was a racist monster, but we'll skip over him for a moment, and we will look at Mary. After several years producing on her own, she decided to join forces and dream bigger. She and these men formed United Artists, a studio that was just that, a collective of independent artists making their own choices, raising their own money, cutting out the middleman. It was groundbreaking and badass and disturbingly socialist to some. They recruited other stars like Buster Keaton and Rudolph Valentino, and they made beautiful things. And always there was Mary, in 5 pictures a year. It used to be more back in the teens, back in her teens, but the movies were shorter and simpler and worse in a way. But in the 20s, in her late 20s and early 30s, she was doing 5 features, playing the poor girl, the rich girl, the poor little rich girl, and doing it all while doing it all. While she was playing those girls in her famous curls, she was upending ideas about women and work. She was producing and casting and balancing budgets and wrangling board members and writing checks and meeting engineers and audio technicians and figuring out how sound was going to work and how an industry would transition to the talkies. There's a thing we've all heard about hearing the movies for the first time, about how the advent of sound destroyed careers, of the debonair actor who was hiding a thick hick accent, or the smoldering screen siren with the secret voice of a police siren. The same way that video killed the radio star, like in this scene from Singing in the Rain.
Pierre, you shouldn't have come.
Pierre, you shouldn't have come.
Mary starred in her first talking picture in 1929. It was called The Coquette, and it's okay. It's fine. It won her the Oscar for Best Actress, and it was a huge hit. People flocked to it because after all of these years of watching Mary, of loving Mary, of projecting onto her, of thinking of her as the perfect daughter or sister or friend or lover, people were finally going to get to hear her talk.
I wish I'd never seen him.
Norma!
I hate him.
Norma!
I hate him. He killed the only thing in life I love.
It turns out they didn't like hearing her talk that much. And there was nothing wrong with her voice. She wasn't the sultry sex symbol who is secretly squeaky like in Singing in the Rain. She was just a woman with a real woman's voice, which was the problem. Because sound made her real. For almost 20 years, they'd watched her grow up without ever having to accept that she was growing up. While she was up there, flickering in the dark, living out these different lives, the audience was out here living their own, living through her and with her, their own Mary, as we do. The real Mary, the woman who was once the girl called Gladys, who had done things no woman had ever done, had ever thought to do, she quit acting at 36 years old. She made 250 silent films, she made 3 talkies, and she was done. At the Academy Awards in 1976, they gave Mary an honorary Oscar. She was frail, and she wasn't up for going to the ceremony. So they sent a camera crew to her house. It was called Pickford, this huge estate in Beverly Hills, a mock Tudor mansion, swimming pool, tennis courts, 18 acres, 25 rooms, which she bought in 1919 after she'd married Douglas Fairbanks. And it was magic there for a while. The parties, the dinners with Chaplin and Amelia Earhart, kings and queens and Roosevelts, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Helen Keller, everyone. She lived there after she and Fairbanks divorced in the 1930s, after she sold her shares in United Artists in the 1950s. She struggled with alcoholism. She got remarried. She became a recluse in that big old house. And when the camera crew came by with her Oscar in 1976, they filmed her on a plush couch by the window in a sunny sitting room. She has a green silk housecoat with a white fur collar and a pink turtleneck and pearls. Her curls are long gone. She has the same bob that she has had since the Coquette. She is 84 years old. She is an old woman. She's a real woman, and she is lovely. And it was the first time the world had seen her in decades, and they didn't like it much. They were disturbed, it seems, horrified if you read the tabloids, to see her old. Their Mary wasn't old. They didn't want to see her in 1976 like they didn't want to hear her back in 1929. But we are going to hear her now, getting that award in the home of her own. And you can picture whichever Mary you'd like.
Mary, I present this to you with great pride and with the love and admiration of the whole Academy.
That's wonderful. You made me very, very happy. And thank you.
Thank you.